What is your best I can't believe I never noticed that before moment? Isn't it weird that pizzas are round, but their boxes are squares, and their slices are triangles? The day I realized there was more to Minesweeper than randomly clicking boxes hoping not to land on a bomb. The Beatles is a pun. It is spelled Beatles instead of Beatles. Beat equals music, etc. Initials are called initials because they are the initial letters of your first and last name. Sound of mind being blown. London Tipton from The Sweet Life was a parody of Paris Hilton. That Hannah Montana was actually Miley Cyrus wearing a wig. 2 nights ago I leaned in to kiss my wife and noticed that she had developed freckles on her nose, seemingly from nowhere. When I pointed it out, she told me that she has had them her whole life. Now, not only have we been together for 3 years, but before that we attended the same school for a number of years as well. At no point have I noticed these freckles. Her family and friends backed her on this, so I must have somehow missed these freckles for over a decade. It still blows my mind how long it took me before I realized that Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and the Alphabet Song have the same melody. Edit. And Bar Bar Black Sheep. It's not the best, but I've been wearing this coat since 2006 and just discovered it has an inside pocket. In Saved by the Bell, Mr. Belding's name was Mr. Bell. Ding. I always thought Belding was a normal surname. I bought coconut oil in Grenada. It was a pretty light see-through yellow color and so smooth and delicious. When I grabbed my check bag and opened it to present the golden liquid to my friends, it was all cloudy and solid and gross. For years I assumed some crazy change happened because of the altitude air pressure in the cabin. Then I saw some at the grocers because it's hip to buy coconut oil now. Turns out it's just f***ing hot on an island. Not so much here in New York. I'm an idiot. First has the initial street because it's the last letters of the word first. And so on. Just figured this out a few months ago. I realized that Eminem called himself that because his initials are M and M for Marshall Mathers. I felt dumb when it took me so many years to figure that out. When I was 12 I suddenly came to the realization that Han Solo and Indiana Jones looked more than a little similar. Clouds and bushes in Mario are the same thing, just different colors. It took me years to realize that the word bed looks exactly like a bed. The arrow next to your gas gauge is pointing to the side where you pump your gas. Would have been helpful for all of the rental cars I used to use for work. Edit. Wow people. Not all cars. But maybe yours. In the Fellowship of the Ring after Frodo was stabbed by the Wraith, they stop in a small clearing next to some rocks. If you look closely, those rocks are the 3 trolls Bilbo turned to stone. It took me way too long to figure out the every kiss begins with K. I never got the more hidden kiss begins with the letter K thing. The word disc can be spelled disc or disc and they have different meanings depending on the spellings. With regards to Valve, the game company, it's called Steam because steam comes from valves. The show was called Step by Step because they were all step siblings. I didn't realize this until a decade after it went off the air. Kim Possible's upper lip looks like a mustache. You literally cannot unsee this shitty. It took me forever to notice that the U.S. Postal Service logo was an eagle. The man in the yellow hat resembles a banana. He hangs out with a monkey. I realized this when I was 26. After having my iPhone for a couple months, I never knew how to open up the music thing from the lock screen. This was before iOS 7. I had done it accidentally and I wondered how to do it. I also saw my friends do it and I was like, well FCK, I must be missing out on something. I realized you have to double tap the home button, which made listening to music much more enjoyable. I used to think Ray-Ban sunglasses were some highfalutin fancy name, until I realized it was Ray-Ban. Might as well be Sun Be Gone. The band Tool When you wear their merch, you are quite literally labeling yourself a tool. They even have a symbol of a wrench made to look like a penis that is depicted on many of their shirts. It makes sense when you think about how much of a prankster and a troll the band leader Maynard James Keenan is. Love that guy. Just last night, watching a commercial for Ore-Ida Tater Tots. Ore-Ida stands for Oregon and Idaho. BOOOOM. Mind blown. Pi has 6 nines in a row from the 762nd decimal place to the 767th decimal place, making it a good place to round. I never noticed that the sea and Chick-fil-A was actually a chicken. I always just saw a bunch of random dots. When I was finally informed by my friend that it was a chicken and looked at it closely, my mind was blown. The word month is what it is because that's how long it takes for a MOON to orbit the Earth. It took me 2 months to realize one of the 18 people that I work with doesn't have a left hand. Not me. But yesterday my girlfriend and I were driving and I mentioned culturing bacteria in a Petri dish. She said, "You mean Peachtree dish?" She was flabbergasted when I proved to her this wasn't correct. She's still upset. Even though last week we went through this same ordeal with windchill versus windshield factor. I always thought that the slogan "Trust Sleepies for the rest of your life" meant to use their brand until the day you die. Last year I realized they meant the rest, as in sleep, of your life. I had a professor who was very instrumental in my academic career. When he retired I was invited to his surprise retirement party. When I finally saw him, he came up to me and had a friend standing next to him. The conversation went something like, "Fig Newton, I want you to meet Joe. He's my partner. Dr. Professor, I didn't know you ran a business. I don't. Double quote. Afterwards, I was talking to a classmate of mine and she was like, "How could you not know he was gay?" And then suddenly all the signs were there. Acronyms can be pronounced as their own words. UNICEF, DARPA, FEMA, NASCAR. For example, initialisms are unpronounceable. CIA, FBI, PCMCIA. Earlier today, I was talking to a friend and a friend of his. His friend said that she had belonged to an equestrian club, and he asked her if she had a horse. She said no, but she wanted one. I said that she should get a pony and eventually it will grow up and be a horse. Till a pony is not a baby horse. The NHL team Minnesota Wild's logo is an outline of a wild animal. Pretty sad that I didn't realize this for a while when I'm from Minnesota and a fan of the Wild. I don't know if this is what you mean. Maybe it's more of a "I never really thought about it" type. I was probably 18 or 19 and walking through a grocery store with my mother when she said that something had just dawned on her. I paused, thought to myself, and began to ask my mother, what the hell does that even mean? Why do people say don don? Then it hit me and I felt like a complete dumbass. OHHHH. Dawn don. I get it now. Double quote. Derp. The reason why Patrick Star is dumb is because he's been living under a rock. Another one is Breaking Bad's Saul Goodman. His name sounds like it's Saul Goodman, pertaining to him being a lawyer that can fix anything. Everything Snow White says is in rhyme. I can't believe I never noticed. I watched that movie hundreds of times during my childhood. My most recent one was a friend Snapchatting me a picture from Only Fools and Horses. He'd written the name of their company as well. Trotter's Independent Trading. Only then, after being aware of the name for many years, did I realize that the acronym was TIT. I felt like a right tit. Most tennis players, Roger Federer especially, have one muscular arm and one chicken wing arm because they only really use their dominant arm for tennis. My wife pointed it out to me and now it is all I see when I watch tennis. Being Mexican American. Knowing the difference between a lemon and a lime. In Spanish you just say lim and everyone knows which one you're referring to. On all body weight scales. At least in Canada. In small printed states not legal for trade. For a good portion of my life I was baffled as I could not understand how the illicit trade in scales would provide the necessity for such a statement. However, upon my 25 year of life I realized they cannot assess weight for trade. It was a big day. I always assumed it was called Looney Tunes because they were cartoons. But it is actually Looney Tunes because they are all musical shorts. That the Lil Wayne line G's move silent like lasagna refers to the silent G in the word, not the stealthiness of the pasta. When someone is nice to other people, the people around him like him more. I was baffled when my friend gave $20 to a homeless guy while we were talking to some girls at a theater conference. When it finally clicked the next day, I nearly slapped myself. Oh. And after we talked to those girls, I decided to go to a stand-up comedy workshop while my friend went back to their hotel room. I am not a smart man. I never realized, until my wife told me a few months ago, that Kelsey Grammer is the person singing the Frasier theme song. It is so obvious. Now that I think of it, not sure how I missed it. I was just lying on the couch watching TV when I glanced over at the bookshelf. There I see this huge book I got for Christmas years ago. A typical fantasy genre. Wimka will probably like a gift from an aunt. As I'm looking I think the name of the author looks familiar. And the title had an epic tone. Also familiar. That's when I realized. Game of Thrones. I've had the book since way before the show started and never knew. In high school, I played trumpet. My band teacher really needed some French horn players and asked if any of us wanted to switch. So I did. More than 3 weeks later I finally realized that I had been playing with my left hand instead of my right. For me it was Target's brand Archer Farms. Because archers shoot at targets, yeah, no. That Skittles are just Starburst with M&M shells. I never noticed Superman had a big S on his chest. I always just saw the yellow bits and thought they were alien hieroglyphs or symbols. Only copped it was an S about 3 years ago. I'm 34. You can't say happiness without saying penis. Right now just noticed that the up-down vote scores are hidden for the first 60 minutes.